It's now with pleasure that I introduce Bruce Gilbert, who is the president of IAP2 Canada, to get this meeting started.
Welcome,
Bruce.
everyone. I know there are people on this call webinar from coast to coast to coast, so thank you for finding time in your early mornings in the West Coast and in your lunchtime in Central Canada and mid-afternoon on a busy work day, I'm sure, for all of you. It's a pleasure to be here today. I won't elongate the start of this AGM. I will just turn the meeting over to our board member, Sarah Ray, who is our secretary, who will be your leader for a healthy part of this meeting here today. So Sarah.
So Bruce, just before we go to Sarah, I'm just going to do some really quick housekeeping and then we'll hand it right back to Sarah. So thanks so much, Bruce, for your welcome. I just want to remind everyone today that we will be voting. And so just a quick reminder, on your screen, you should be able to see a little hand sign. So when we go to voting, we need all members to raise their hands so that we can see that you have voted. We do have a quorum, which Sarah's going to talk about in a minute, but if you could please raise your hands. Now, the other thing that I'm aware of is that we have some people that have joined us via phone. If you've joined us via phone, it's going to be difficult to vote because you won't be able to raise your hand with that. But if you want to let me know through the question box, yes or no, when we do the motions, then we'll be able to include your, make sure that we include your vote as well. And Harding, I know that you're on phone. If there's anybody else on the call that is just strictly on the phone, please let me know. Just pop it into the question box and we'll be able to indicate that you have joined us. So Anne, thank you for joining us for phone, and thank you to everybody else that's joined us. So Sarah, that's it for housekeeping, other than to let everyone know that we are recording today's meeting and it will be available probably within the next 24 to 48 hours on the website. So with that, Sarah, over to you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Amelia. If we could go to the next slide. So I'd like to officially call this meeting to order and ask for a quorum check by Drew. I can see that there's about 30 attendees who are attending right now, but if we could get a quorum check as well.
And I can tell you we have quorum.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Drew. The other thing I'm just going to add is that I'll be taking the minutes for this meeting as well. I would like to get an adoption of the agenda, and as Amelia had mentioned, how we're doing everything is by this raising of the hands. So if I could get the first two people that raise their hands will be the mover and the seconder to approve the agenda as posted. If I could get 2 hands up for that, please.
You've had that. So Tracy
Perfect.
L. Tracy L was the first one, and it was seconded by Drew Ferrari. So Tracy
Perfect.
L and Drew Ferrari. And now if everybody else could please vote to approve the agenda.
So we'll just need everyone who is there to raise their hands.
We are good. It's being approved.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'd like to move forward to approve the minutes from our last AGM on June 13th, 2017. They've been posted for a little while and sort of detail all of the great things that happened in 2016. So if I can again get a mover and a seconder to raise hands and get everyone else to raise their hands as well for the approval of the minutes.
So Carla Reeser has moved it, and Caroline Chamon has, and and Michelle Snow has seconded it. So Carla Reeser and Michelle Snow.
Perfect. Thanks very much. If I can get everyone else to raise their hand at this time to approve those minutes.
It's approved.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Amelia. If we could move to the next slide. So I'd like to start by thanking our board members. We have had a wonderful year of strategic planning and a lot of exciting things underway, but wanted to thank our board members, especially some of our departing board members, including our treasurer, Ashley Whedon, Dorada Ikonini, and Brenda Pichette, who's been Federation representative and done many things for IAP2 over the years. So wanted to thank you for your service and for everything that you've done. If we could go to the next slide. Oh. And go to the highlights. I think this is back to Bruce.
Okay. A lot happened in 2017. For those of you that took the time to open up the annual report, which is also on our website, you'll see that I referenced it as an upbeat and positive year. There was a lot of movement on files that we've been working on for quite some time. So, you know, it's great to see the fruit of your labors blossoming. So what are some of the highlights? There's too many to really delve into here, but well, of course, we co-hosted the North American Conference in Denver, which was an excellent event from my own personal perspective. Lot of interesting people showing up from all the other affiliates around the world, so exciting and very useful. We had our first skills symposium in the National Capital Region, Gatineau, Hull, Ottawa area. Very exciting, something new for us. Kudos to the training committee and the hard work behind the scenes. We did our best to also ensure that our ongoing efforts to make IAP2 more bilingual were manifest in that skills symposium. So there was training sessions offered in French. It was a great event. We piggybacked our annual board meeting onto that skills symposium. The whole certification process is cruising along. I believe we had 2 assessment centers. These are people that are being designated through a series of assessment, designated to be basically our experts in public participation. CP3, Certified Public Participation Practitioners. I believe we certified 6. Keep your eyes and ears open for future assessment centers. I believe we're moving towards having one this fall. You'll find lots of information on our website about that. We launched our Indigenous Engagement Awareness process, and basically we've made decisions over the past couple of years to do more, to step up as an organization, to do more in line with recommendations coming out of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And we thought we would start with our own internal IAP2 leadership and push ourselves to embark on a journey of self-assessment in terms of our awareness of Indigenous issues and open up channels of communication with Indigenous people so that we could, at least walk the talk as elected leaders and volunteers in the organization, and that we would use that as the platform to move forward to do more out of IAP2 and based, emanating from the organization, more in line with Indigenous engagement, whether it's training or mentoring or partnering with groups, Indigenous groups that are already involved with P2. That's something I'm particularly proud of, although I have to give all the credit to others on the board for that. We continued on with our monthly webinars. Some of you have participated in those. Our volunteer engagement strategy was alive and well. We did a lot of work behind the scenes on our communications and marketing materials, and you're going to see a launch of a new IAP2 website after some starts and stops over the last year or so. We've finally seemed to have moved forward on that. Our membership has grown. We've had a lot of people trained. We've had, you're going to hear about this in a moment, we had an incredible turnout for our recent board election. Our membership is up. It's been a good year. It's not without its flaws and its faults. We have some things to work on, and we'll continue to do that, but there's a lot of goodwill around the table, and it's been a positive experience from my own personal and professional perspective. So thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. So just a quick showing of our membership. You can see that it seems to be down a little bit in December, but it just depends on when people renew. So we've bounced back up into the 700s in early January. So really pleased, as Bruce has said, with the membership growth. And you can see a little bit about all of our active chapters. So I know Wild Rose is always very proud that they're still the biggest chapter, but it's really interesting to see other people catching up within the chapter realm. So a really huge big thank you to the chapters for all of the tremendous work that they're doing. It's great to see all of the initiatives underway at the chapter level, at the grassroots level. And for those of you that might be joining us from the Atlantic, I know that we're working hard to get you back up and running. So if you have any interest in that process, please don't hesitate to contact us, because we would really like to get our Atlantic chapter up and running and providing more opportunities to everyone. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ashley, our treasurer. Ashley.
Great, thank you. So continuing on everyone's kind of notes that we've had a year in 2017. You can see from the top line details shared there that 2017 saw us still in a very healthy position financially in terms of our balance at the beginning of the year and through the end. We've continued to kind of leverage a strategic deficit, which you can see there in that 11,798 at the bottom, sort of the second line from the bottom, and that has to do a lot with we are an active nonprofit, and so we should be investing in our members and services to support our members and the practice, rather than kind of just sitting on a lot of money. So we've been taking our revenues and strategically investing them in programs that directly support our membership. This year was also not a conference year in terms of a conference year hosted here in Canada, where we would typically see a bump in revenue related to that conference and related to memberships associated with the conference. However, the relatively kind of healthy makeup that sees us only at $1,000 less than we were the year before in our end of year balance has a lot to do with the creation of the Skills Symposium, bringing in almost $10,000 in revenue, and the success of our certification program. We had a lot of uptake on both of those things, which brought in a significant amount of revenue, which will allow us to continue to invest in programs for our membership. We can go to the next slide. So we have a pretty strong financial balance. The principal sources of our incomes are membership fees, which account for about 80% of our total. And as Amelia noted, we had a really strong year in terms of membership, so this brings in a significant amount of revenue. I think we're at about 4.8% increase over 2016. Again, demonstrating a strong engagement from our membership. The slide that we're on right now shows a healthy balance in terms of what we have in terms of both restricted and unrestricted balances. So our total net assets at $200,798. I'm sorry, of which 124 and change are unrestricted. The restricted assets include our investments and the funds that we hold in trust for our chapters. Overall, we're in a really healthy financial situation, and we continue to invest in things like strategic planning and communication and better services that support our members. Our financial management policies continue to evolve into strong financial governance, and looking at things like how we work with our chapters to invest in chapter-based activities and things like the transfer to chapters on that front, as well as exploring options to build reserve funds and diversifying our revenue sources, which we clearly saw in 2017 is working really, really well. As we move forward from 2017 into 2018, we're going to continue to operate from this position of financial strength by looking and continuing to implement strong financial governance, continuing to kind of monitor and keep an eye on the chapter funding agreement process, which seems to be working quite well, investing in both long-term and immediate projects that have been identified through the strategic planning process, and to continue supporting further training and professional development initiatives through things like our communities of practice, skills symposium, the taster series, which we'll talk about more later, and particularly with Indigenous engagement, as Bruce mentioned. I think all in all, we're continuing in a really strong direction in terms of both generating revenue to support our activities and then directly trying that back into supports for our membership. This is my last term serving on both the executive and the board, and it's been a pleasure to serve as the treasurer for IAP2 Canada. I'd like to extend my deep and sincere thanks to our members and to our executive, and particularly to Amelia and her team at Amelia Shaw Consulting, who have been absolutely essential to ensuring our finances are well managed and our organization is happy, healthy, and efficient. So that's the financial part, unless anybody has any questions.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Okay, we just had a question from Joe. Could you please give us some insight into why you are raising annual membership fees? Did you consider ways to reduce expenses, which seems to be significantly from previous non-conference years?
Right, so there was a lot of debate over the raising of membership fees. Some of that has to do with both keeping the organization financially sustainable and stable, and also keeping in line with the value that we offer to our members. So IAP2 Canada had kept its membership fees at the same rate for a very long time. And when you look at comparable organizations in our kind of milieu, so IBC and other sort of communities of practice or professional organizations that support a similar type of work and in a similar type of way, our value for membership dollar is absolutely incredible. I think some organizations you're looking at paying upwards of $300, $500 for an individual membership, and we were still at that $100 level. And so raising the membership fees also allows us to better invest in stronger services for our members, as well as keep in mind the amount of value that we offer. So by increasing our membership a little bit, we're able to offer more diverse programming. We're able to invest in things like the Skills Symposium while keeping a healthy revenue base that means that our organization will be sustainable over time.
Thank you.
Did anyone else on the board want to add to that?
Yeah. So a couple of other questions here, and thank you, and a thank you from Joe. So will 2017 be totaled up like 2017 on page 10? So this was not an audit year. It will be an audit year next year, but we can certainly look into that, Terry. And another question from Gay. Why is the beginning balance for 2017 higher than the closing balance for 2016?
I'm just pulling our
and I think it's probably also because this isn't unaudited. So there may have been some things, Gay, that we will look at. So this is what we have coming into the year. But Ashley, if you wanted to answer the question, you could as well.
Yeah, I'm just got the balance sheet up in front of me. I'm not entirely sure. Some of that has to do with some investments. But again, that's something that we did a financial review and not a full audit. And so that could be also the way in which our membership, I remember, Amelia, the way our membership numbers are accrued and totaled distribute a little bit funny. We can look into that.
Yeah. Gay, so we're happy to do a little bit more on it, but this was the beginning of the balance at the beginning of the year, unaudited. Good. So everyone's saying thank you, Ashley, and I would also like to sincerely add my thanks to you being the treasurer for the past 3 years. It's been a great opportunity, and I really appreciate working with you. So with that, Sarah, it is back to you.
Thanks very much. So I would like to give a huge thank you, and I kind of started with this, and thank you to all of our board members, but especially thank you to our departing board and deputy board members, including Dorada and Brenda and Ashley, and our departing deputy members, including Morgan, Sherry, and Samantha. All of our voices come together, create something really great, so I wanted to thank everyone for their work. On behalf of the Nominating and Elections Committee, I'm pleased to give the results of our board elections, and I'm very thrilled to welcome some new board members to our IAP2 Canada directors, including Catherine Rockendell from British Columbia and Drew Ferrari from British Columbia, Michelle Snow from Newfoundland, and Kristen Farrell from Ontario. Our continuing board members will be Sarah Rive, myself, Hugo Mimi from Quebec, Calvin Proveston from Alberta, Mark Weir from Ontario, and Michael Walters from BC. So coast to coast to coast for our directors. Our re-elected board members are Bruce Gilbert from Newfoundland and Rose Below from Alberta. And our new deputy board members will be Caroline Chameau from Quebec, Kyle Epperingham from British Columbia, and Nicole Melanson from New Brunswick. So we're thrilled with the number of members who voted. We were just over 21%, I believe, for our goal, which was 20% of membership voting for the election. And we're very impressed with the number of candidates. We had 14 candidates who were interested in being a director and 6 candidates who are interested in being a deputy member. So thank you for those that have shown their interest, and we will be definitely connecting in the future to see if there's chapter opportunities or other opportunities with IAP2 Canada, but thank you for stepping up. We really appreciate it. And I think what I need to do now is to, I'm going to put a motion on the floor to ratify our bylaws and complete the consolidated articles. So about 7 months ago, we started looking into creating a governance handbook that would really be a place where all of our information on good governance for IAP2 Canada would be hosted, and found that there were some bylaw changes that needed to be made based on the way that we're operating, and to include good governance as well, making them a little more reader-friendly and really keeping the what governance means to IAP2 in mind. So we've had a few questions that we've answered by email, and thanks to those that had questions, but perhaps I can ask if there are questions on the if there's been any questions raised for the bylaws in the question section.
So thank you very much, Sarah. At this point in time, there are no questions in the question box.
Perfect. So what I'd like to do is actually have a motion to to have a mover and a seconder raise their hands to ratify our bylaws as suggested, and then have everyone raise their hands after that.
Thanks very much. So you have a mover, Terry Cook, and you have a seconder, Joseph Thornley. So your mover is Terry Cook and your seconder is Joseph Thornley. So Sarah, now we can open it up for a full vote.
Perfect. Let's have everybody put those hands way up high.
So just a second while I count. We're good. It has been approved.
Perfect. And I wanted to thank the members for this. We'll probably be coming back annually with more information about our governance and our bylaws. This isn't meant to be a hard or difficult thing, but something that will be coming up more frequently. So thank you for your confidence in moving this forward.
So with that, it's back to Bruce for a little bit of an update on what we're doing in 2018. Bruce.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Okay, well, for 2018, we'll first and foremost, we'll stick with our strategic plan, which is a 2018 to 2020 document, and basically hover our work around the key priorities, three in particular that we're always talking about, and you'll see in the bullets that follow, they fall from them, the whole notion of professional development for our members, networking and partnering between and among the various individuals and organizations that we touch, including our chapters and outside agencies, and overall trying to advance the practice in a host of ways, which is training, offering training to municipalities, the Skills Symposium, etc. So I'll talk about those. So first up is the North American Conference. If you can get there, you should get there because these are really excellent events. They're somewhere between conferences and workshops, in my view. They're way more helpful to a practitioner than a typical conference, in my thinking. So we're all looking forward to that, and that's a fair bit of work for everybody involved with the board and particularly the BC chapter. We'll be planning for our second Skills Symposium. It'll be probably bigger and better and more robust than the first one, which was a huge success. That's for 2019, but we'll be doing a lot of work this year. As mentioned earlier, our next Certification Assessment Center will be rolling out in the fall. The deadline is there, August the 10th. So if you'd like to consider becoming a CP3, you need to find the appropriate people, and those people are easy to find on our website. We'll be launching our mentorship program this August. We've had that going for a few years, very popular. In terms of chapters, well, chapters are really the motor of IAP2. Most of the activity on the ground in the regions and across the country is happening through and because of chapters. So from an IAP2 board point of view, we'll support the chapters where possible. In some cases, we stay out of the way. Other cases, we are there to assist, and we'll just attempt to collaborate with our chapter partners and find our rightful place. But yeah, chapters will be a huge part of the upcoming year. Many of you might not know this, but we've been working on with limited resources and with a million other priorities, trying to make our organization more bilingual. We have a pathway. We're slowly plucking off the low-hanging fruit and moving in some of the harder matters. Ensuring we have bilingual trainers in the country, people who can train in French, has been a big consideration for the people involved with this. So that will continue. I mentioned earlier that our new revamped brand, comms, and website will be launched soon. The Taster Series is worth noting. It's somewhere between a webinar, I guess it's a short skills-based webinar. You can keep your eyes open for those. I believe they're like 45 minutes in length, and they'll be very practical. And well, there's a lot more, but I think we can leave it there. I guess one thing I should say is that amongst all of these activities, we're part of a federation, which is a cluster of affiliates like our own from around the world, and the federation is going through a change process, which we are an appropriate partner. So we'll be doing everything we do as IAP2 Canada while participating and managing how the whole IAP2 movement is evolving and changing, and you'll be hearing much more about that in the upcoming months. Yeah, for a group of volunteers, there's no shortage of work to be engaged with. Thank you.
So Sarah, back to you. I don't believe there was any new business raised.
Perfect. Maybe I'll just ask the question again if there was any new business on the floor, but don't see any questions coming in.
I don't see any questions either.
Perfect. Thank you.
So this is just a really big thank you to all of the amazing volunteers, both at the affiliate level and certainly at the chapter level. IAP2 would not succeed without the incredible volunteers. All of our board members are volunteers. All of the committees are volunteers. Everything that happens with the conference and the symposiums is a result of the tremendous work that our volunteers give. So everyone that are out there that are volunteering, and I can see many of the people on the call, Sarah, and many of them are people that volunteer many, many hours. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for everything that you do. And back to you, Sarah, for finishing out the AGM.
Perfect. So based on that, I'd like to call the meeting to a close. I believe I will need a mover and a seconder to do that. If I could get hands up.
Your hands are going up. So Carla Reeser and Morgan Vespa for a mover and a seconder.
Perfect.
And I think I think there's lots of hands going up there for an adjournment as well. So.
Wonderful. I'm waving my hand across from Quebec to everyone else for thanking for the raising of the hands. Greatly appreciated.
Yeah, so we hope that you will stay with us now as the AGM has come to a close, because we're going to go into the next part of our meeting, which is going to be an update on what is happening with Indigenous engagement. So hopefully you'll be able to stay tuned with us while we move to that part of after our AGM. So Sarah and Anne. We're now moving into your section.
Perfect. Well, perhaps I'll introduce Anne Harding, and I'll let her take the wheel. Anne, over to you.
So I need to get Anne unmuted, so we'll see what we can do about that. So just give me just a second. So Anne, we should be able to hear you now. Excellent.
Hi, Amelia. And I'll actually get you to drive. You were trying to make me the presenter, but I'm hoping you guys can keep that up because I'm on a hot spot and don't want to suddenly
Yep, absolutely,
disappear.
Anne. We have the PowerPoint up. Yep.
Okay, good stuff. Thanks. So thank you very much, everyone. My name is Anne Harding. I am, I guess, still the past president of IAP2 Canada, coming to you from Treaty 7 territory in Calgary in southern Alberta. And so I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about what Bruce had referenced earlier, the Indigenous Awareness Program that the board went through as a pilot through the latter part of 2017 and into early 2018. I am the coordinator for IAP2 Canada's Indigenous Engagement Community of Practice. So we're a community of practice that was born out of the Indigenous Inclusion Subcommittee from 2015. So you have up there the strategic recommendations that came from that group, and that group was really IAP2 Canada's first toe dip, I'm going to say, into considering what our role is in reconciliation, how we can better reflect Indigenous inclusion within both our organization and in the practice. And so many thanks to the folks who participated in that group in 2015. We came together for, I think, probably about 9 months and formed some recommendations for how IAP2 Canada could move forward in this space. One of the recommendations, the tactical pieces that came from that, was the creation of a community of practice. And so in 2016, that community of practice was formed. We are still active, and we kind of play a dual role. So IAP2 Canada's other communities of practice are primarily for groups of practitioners working in like sectors to share case studies and learn from each other. So plug here for the energy community of practice, as well as I think we had a healthcare one that's emerging as well. So if you're interested in joining one of those, please do contact Amelia. But we also have this Indigenous engagement group for members who are working with or for or in Indigenous communities. And the dual role that this community of practice plays is both to share case studies and to learn from each other and from the communities we work in. So we often have speakers from Indigenous communities, as well as our member practitioners sharing their reflections of engagement opportunities that they've taken part in. But then we also have another role to help the board advance these recommendations. And that's something that we've sort of taken on, but it's taken us a while to figure out our way in this space. And I'm going to just reference this first recommendation here, was developing this corporate commitment to promote a greater understanding. And sort of many organizations are starting to have a corporate commitment to reconciliation or a reconciliation action plan. And so it was a recommendation that IAP2 Canada should look into this. And as our community of practice members started diving in and trying to sort of craft one or do some research, we ran into the fact of, well, we don't know what the direction is from the leadership of the national board and in chapters to step into this space. And without that direction and that vision from the top, we don't really feel confident in creating these recommendations for these corporate commitments on behalf of an organization that may or may not want to step into the space. And then when we reflected on that further, we learned that, well, the leaders of our organization, on average, have the level of understanding that is typical of most Canadians in terms of the experiences and awareness around experiences of Indigenous peoples in Canada. And we know that's a gap that's come out loud and clear in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And we know that there's several calls to action to increase awareness and understanding among Canadians about those experiences. So we took a big giant step back and said, okay, let's start at the top. Let's start with learning. Let's start with understanding so that we can knowledgeably and fully develop these recommendations, develop the training, the commitment, maybe advocate for changes within the IAP2 Foundation's framework, but we need to know that we have that common understanding. So let's flip to the next slide. We partnered with, we had an RFP out last summer and ended up partnering with Arch Consultants, who are based out of Calgary. So Lloyd Ewanen and Greg Kozakowski journeyed with our community of practice to co-create this program. And so this was a pilot program that we worked together to respond to the opportunity in a way that was flexible for board members and that recognized that everybody is at a different spot. Everybody has a story and everybody has an experience to share. And so what we did was we partnered members of our community of practice with members of the board in learning teams. And those learning teams went through 3 to 4 of these different stages. The intent was to start at the top left with self-reflection and to share very honestly with yourself and with your learning team where you're at, what your experiences have been, what your understanding is, what biases you might already have, and to document that either in a written, or some people sent in videos or audio recordings, but really to do that self-reflection of where they were at and to create that space for vulnerability with their learning teams. We move then into knowledge and understanding, and so don't flip to the next slide yet, but we'll get there in a sec, where groups were asked to select at least one learning resource that was recommended and work through it together, whether that was a documentary series or a book, and then groups would meet up and work through that conversation. So we had community of practice members who had some experiences working with Indigenous communities, but by no means were supposed to be experts or were intended to be, but to help on that learning journey together. And then moving into opportunities of experiencing relationship. So some of that happened at the board meeting in March, where the board came together with and had experiences with Lloyd's Ewanen, the elder who was guiding the process, and we spent a fair amount of time in circle and sort of understanding his experiences and reflections on this work and what he's been through. And then also the intent was to end with sharing with others and with reflecting on contemporary issues related to Indigenous interests in our country and to teach each other. And so with that, knowing that we can go through this several times, that we might build this into a future program for chapter boards, maybe as an offering for IAP2 Canada, but really this was our first step into getting our organization better set up to make informed decisions and direction around Indigenous involvement and inclusion in the organization and the practice. So if you flip to the next slide, is the list of resources that folks worked through. So again, we provided all of these. I think there were some learning teams that ended up reading all of them or going through everything, and others restricted sort of by time or by a deeper interest in one subject, focused on one. But these are resources. Again, Amelia said this webinar is being recorded, so feel free to come back and refer to these. Sort of recommended vetted through our community of practice, and certainly there are more follow-up resources that our community of practice is curating that we can share with our membership. And definitely, if you have others to suggest, please send them to Amelia, and we'll make sure they get on our community of practice Basecamp page so we can help with that curation. But I just wanted to take some time now, and we'll flip to the next slide, and just ask any members who are on the call, either from the board or from the community of practice who were part of learning teams, just a bit about your experience. What changed for you, what was challenging, what was rewarding, and to just share your reflections. And then we'll sort of save some time at the end for others on the call to share your own reflections, maybe of experiences that you've had, as well as what you think IAP2 Canada should do next in terms of stepping into this space. We have this part of the AGM, we have some opportunities at the Victoria Conference, but there still isn't a clear roadmap about what's next. So I would be really curious to share those thoughts too. So I'm going to pause there and ask Amelia to help facilitate whatever reflections come through from board members or other program participants.
Thank you so much, Anne. So I believe Dorada was going to start. Dorada, your mic is opened. Dorada? All right. So Sarah, maybe we'll come to you first, and we'll try and get Dorada. Dorada's mic is open, so hopefully that will work momentarily. But let's go to you first, Sarah.
Sure, sounds good. So I think what I took from this learning experience was, in some of the things that Anne said, of creating that safe space and being able to share our experiences. I didn't really know what to expect, but really found the resources helpful just to review and go back over things again that I maybe knew, but I didn't give myself the time to understand. And it was really great to hear everyone else's experience and what everybody else on the board was bringing into it. So for me, it was more than just reading books and then walking away from it. It was almost like an informal book club where we were all talking about similar things that we were reading about. That was something that's really important and should be really important to everyone. So I encourage everybody to take the time to read the resources, and if you want to talk about them with somebody who's on the board, I'm happy to raise my hand. As I'm happy to chat about it anytime, because I think this was the time to start the conversation and to keep it going. So for me, it was really great, and I'm happy to continue forward on this path.
Oops, just a second. I just, sorry, we'll come back. I just seem to lose something there for a second. Can everyone still see my screen? Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry, we're trying to get Dorada in, and we're trying to make Dorada a presenter so that we can hear her voice, because we've been unable to hear it. So sorry about that, Sarah, as we lost the screen momentarily. Can you still hear me okay and see everything?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. So we have a couple, Mark, Mark's hand is also up. Mark, so I'm going to open up your mic and see if we can see if whether or not we can hear you. So Mark, an audio pin has just been sent to you. So if you could just key in that audio pin and we'll see whether or not we can open up your mic. But with permission, Sarah, I'm wondering if I could also talk a little bit about my experience while we wait to get Dorada and others on board.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, I was very honored to be included in this initiative. It's a very humbling initiative when you realize that you really don't know a lot about what's happened within our Indigenous communities within Canada. And I think for me, my biggest takeaway from all of this was to say that it's actually okay not to know, but it's not okay not to ask. And I think that having that ability to say that and be okay with that and sit with it and have it resonate was good. And my learning journey is all being about asking now. So I read as much as I can. I look at all of the documentation that we received, and I ask. I have the opportunity to go out and meet with different people, and I ask them the questions. And I think for me that has been very liberating and also very humbling. And I just really welcome this opportunity to go on this learning journey. And I would really encourage anyone on the call, pick up the phone or ask. Just do whatever you can to learn more about what has been happening with Indigenous communities in Canada. So with that, I think, Dorada, we've now got your line open. Do you want to try speaking again? So sorry, Anne, we seem to be having some technical difficulties with Dorada, and we'll try and open. Mark, can you speak, and we'll see if we can hear you?
Yeah, I think I unmuted my phone. Okay.
Excellent. So, Mark, if you would like to share your experience, that would be brilliant.
Sure. Yeah, just also echo those remarks that it was a really valuable exercise to sort of pause and reflect through the reading of the materials that were shared to us about just learning about Indigenous culture and finding ways to. I would say for me, it really caused sort of a moment to kind of reflect on the culture of the organization that I work within, to really examine, not only what we're working on in terms of how that impacts Indigenous individuals, but how we can maybe do our work a bit differently to really build in time and opportunity for those individuals to participate and to collaborate with us. And I work in the public sector here in Ontario at the Ministry of Health. So anyway, so it was really thought-provoking, and I would encourage anyone to look through those resources and spend time in some sort of dialogue with either other colleagues or individuals from other organizations who are thinking through the issues as well, because you're trying to think about it sort of on a few different levels, pragmatically, definitely, because I think we all forget at the speed at which we work, and sometimes taking the time to engage with underserved communities really requires us to think about doing our work differently.
Amelia, I'm on the phone now. Sorry, this is Dorada. Hello?
Thanks, Dorada. We can now hear you. So if you'd like to share your story, that would be terrific. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, but yeah, I just want to echo what our colleagues shared. For me personally, this was a great experience, and in two sense. Like first, as a public servant, there's been a big focus on us as public servants too in every aspect of our work to be very aware and get and be more inclusive and be aware of the Aboriginal, bring the Aboriginal reality into our decision making. So there is, as a public servant, there is a desire to know more and how to engage the communities and how you can engage them in areas that potentially are not as obvious as you'd see in certain areas as energy or health. But as somebody who is new to this country as well, I felt that it was giving me an opportunity to reflect on the history and get to know, and I realized there was a lot of things that I didn't know, and having the space and the time to do some of the reflection, and I'd really appreciated our group, and Anne was part of our person who's leading us through the conversation, to have that safe space to ask the questions that normally you would not ask to in a big group. It was very insightful, and appreciated also the exercise that we had with Lloyd as a board overall. And coming out of that, I see there is a need within the IAP2, but generally I see on the public engagement side that as somebody who has done public engagement for a long time, I had never had a chance to work on Aboriginal consultation. So there is that need for, first of all, understanding the context and the history, and but also it is there is also a need for training, and that's where I see IAP2 down the path taking a bit more of a leadership role in terms of providing the training. How is the engagement? What is how is that different? And what are some of the things that we need to be aware as the practitioners when we're engaging with the Aboriginal community?
Thank you very much, Dorada. Anne, back to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So I'm looking at the time, and I'm thankful for the board members who have shared, and for you too, Amelia. I think it's important. The reflection is always a really important part, and I think sharing that journey has been really helpful. I would like to open it up to our members, and if we can just flip to the last page with some of those questions, but for folks to type into the question box or to raise their hand, and Amelia will come to them to share either methods or other ways. As we said, this is a pilot program. We were sort of learning as we went and trying things out. And so I think if we were to do it again, there are some things that we would repeat and some done differently. So if other folks have insight into what they've seen that's been helpful, or also what directive would you give your board and your organization to more fully step into this space, given all of the tremendous work that is happening and that we are a volunteer-led organization. So I'm going to leave just a bit of space here for folks to raise their hands or for those comments to come through.
So thank you very much, Anne. And while we're waiting for people to put thoughts into the question box, which we'll certainly encourage people to do, maybe just a couple of things. We were very pleased to be able to have an Indigenous Engagement Awareness training session at the Skills Symposium in Ottawa in March. And certainly coming up in our conference in Victoria, we have a field trip for Indigenous Engagement Awareness, as well as a workshop on the Wednesday afternoon in Indigenous engagement, and a number of sessions that we will be having throughout the conference. So these are some of the ways initially that IAP2 Canada is hoping to bring Indigenous engagement into our membership. We're also very pleased always that we have an Indigenous Engagement Core Values Award. So for anyone that really wants to look at some really terrific best practices, we encourage you to take a look at our Core Value Award winners and learn from them. And certainly they're always open to talking to anybody that might be interested in learning more about Indigenous engagement. And of course, Anne, as you identified earlier on, we have an Indigenous engagement community of practice. So if anyone is interested in participating on that as we continue to move forward and do more towards reconciliation, we'd encourage that. So there is a question from Gay. The Wild Rose signature event that Anne helped organize for us was a wonderful experience for our members. It certainly raised awareness. So Anne, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what you did there and the difference that it made.
Oh, it was so much fun. Thank you, Gay, for that reflection as well, and thanks to the Wild Rose chapter for taking that leadership. So for their signature event last year, we had a one-day conference essentially, or event, but entirely focused. And we were in circle for most of the time. We heard from many different Indigenous voices and incorporated elements of ceremony into the workshop, because as I think anybody who's now sort of stepped into this space through their learning journey will say it's about the head and the heart, and that there's part of that vulnerability and part of that humanity that needs to open up. And so just reflecting on the event that Wild Rose took on, that thank you to the many colleagues who were there. I think we had 90 people participate, and many very fully and sort of stepping in for the first time. So I've seen tremendous openness among our membership over the last number of years and interest in this. So trying to support our community of practice and our board to think about what the next steps for broader programming might be. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks. And Bruce wants to join in. So Bruce?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm only on phone here. I couldn't get to go to webinar to work, so I can't quite see what's going on. I just wanted to say something about the reflection piece. It was of the project we all took on. It was the piece I did not want to do. I did not want to think about my past and my past experiences and then write things down and share it, but I did it, and it was awesome because it helped me identify a couple of key things. And one, I think, is salient for me, but maybe it's something for the board to think about, and that is that I have two experiences with Indigenous people. Some, the personal experience I have because my wife works in the world of reconciliation, and I have Indigenous people in my house. And the other experience is just the non-experience, that vast amounts of time go by where I have no contact and no reason to be in any space where I'm with a person of Indigenous background. And what I identified through my reflection is that for me, some of the most positive experiences I've had, learning experiences and sharing experiences, have been over simple things, just simple contact, like having somebody in my basement listening to vinyl records who's of an Indigenous background. And so I think contact is key, and I think IAP2 Canada needs to find ways of partnering with groups, nonprofits or national, local, regional, doesn't matter, that are populated by people of Indigenous backgrounds, so we can have an excuse to do some things together. I think that's really important. And just saying that our conferences are open to all, and then seeing that not very many people of diversity show up isn't good enough. We have to work on that, and I think that's what I've learned from this project. So the learning from my small bit of reflection is being dragged into my opinionated self on the board. That's all.
Thanks, Bruce. Anne, back to you.
That's great. I fully appreciate that, Bruce, and look forward to building on that over the months and year to come. Amelia, are there any other questions or hands raised?
No, I don't see any other questions or hands raised. But let me just give it just another quick minute. Carla, I can see. So just let me check with Carla, because
Sure.
Just check with Carla. Carla, did you want to say something?
No, thanks, Amelia. I appreciate the conversation, but my hand keeps switching kind of on its own to green. So
No worries. Thank you so much. So Anne, I think that was everything, other than hopefully we will make sure that we get all of these resources out to people. It will certainly be in the recording as you identified it earlier on.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. And thanks to the board for stepping into this space of a bit of vulnerability. And I look forward to our many conversations to come.
Thank you. So Sarah, back to you to wrap it up and say goodbye.
Perfect. I love having these conversations, and even though sometimes AGMs can be a little bit procedural and a little dry, I wanted to thank everybody for your time today, spending the last hour with us and going through what happened in 2017, what's to come in 2018, and some future looking things as well. So thank you for spending the time with us today, and we look forward to connecting in the future. See you in Victoria.
Take care, everyone. Goodbye now.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you.